So Vanessa had a puppy, cute puppy, took 200 pictures, posted 4 or 5 of the cutest pictures on her Instagram, but the puppy got loose and ran out into the street and got run over by a truck. She did not post a photo of the dead dog, but a boy might. It wouldn't be unusual for a boy to post a photo of the crumpled corpse on his Instagram. Girl and a boy both go to a party, they both get sick, they both throw up. The boy posts a photo of his own vomit on his Instagram. Girls almost never do that, post a photo of their own vomit on their Instagram, but boys do. Boys post a wide range of their lived experience. Girls post mostly the fun stuff, the interesting stuff, the happy stuff. Now put all these findings together and imagine a girl, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years of age, sitting in her bedroom alone, looking at the other girl's Instagram. There's Madison at the party, she's having a blast. There's Sonia at the football game, she's having a great time. There's Vanessa with her new puppy, isn't it cute? I'm sitting here in my bedroom not doing anything. My life sucks. The more time a girl spends on social media like Instagram, the more likely the girl is to become anxious or depressed because she thinks all the other girls are having a great time. All the other girls' lives are interesting and fun, and she's the only one who's bored, disappointed, lonely. Now what if a mature adult were sitting with her? The brain research that I cite in chapter 2 of Boys Adrift shows that girls reach full maturity in terms of brain development by about 22 years of age. Boys don't reach full maturity in brain development until about 30 years of age. So that explains a lot, if you think about it. When I say a mature adult, I mean a woman over 22, a man over 30. If a mature adult were sitting with that girl, the mature adult could say, look, everybody's life is a mix of success and disappointment. Everyone's life is a mix of happy and sad. And for most human beings who've ever lived, more sad than happy, more disappointment than success. That's not a new insight. The first noble truth of Buddhism is that life is suffering. Plato, writing about Socrates, tells us that as Socrates was contemplating his own death, his imminent death, Socrates taught his students that true philosophy consists in the cheerful contemplation of your own death. In the New Testament, Paul, writing to the Romans, chapter 7, says that this world is condemned to frustration. But the same man commands his readers to rejoice continually. Now, how are you supposed to do that? How are you supposed to rejoice continually if the world is condemned to frustration? Well, that's the first question. That's the first question of any serious philosophy. That's the first question on the road to maturity. You will be frustrated. Life is a series of disappointments with long stretches of boredom in between. And then you die. That's something every adult understands. How then do you choose to live joyfully? Knowing that you will watch loved ones die and then you will die. How do you choose to live joyfully? That's the first question on the road to maturity. But this girl will never take that first step because she still thinks all the other girls are having a great time. She still thinks she's the only one who is alone, frustrated, disappointed. So what can you do about it? Regarding Facebook, Instagram, you need to begin by recognizing that most 13-year-olds are not masters of time management. So in one study, they asked this girl, how much time were you on Facebook last night? She said 45 minutes. It was actually more than 3 hours, but I don't think she was lying. I think she lost track of the time. You have to be the parent. I encourage you to install parental monitoring software like WebRoot, Cyber Patrol, NetNanny. I have no affiliation with any of these companies. And tell your kids that you are deploying this software. Explain to them, look, my parents insisted on knowing where I was at all times. I need to know where you are at all times, except now it's not out there, it's online. I will know every website you visit and how much time you spend there and what you do there. Your kids need to know that you know how much time they're spending online and how they're spending that time. It's not reasonable to put this burden on a child. What is your daughter supposed to say when her friend says, when her friend says, hey, I posted my photo on Instagram, how come you didn't like it? How come you didn't click the like on Instagram for my photo? Your daughter has to be able to say, hey, my evil parents have this app installed on my device. It shuts me out of Instagram after 20 minutes. I only get 20 minutes every 24 hours. Come on over and we'll try and guess the password. Some parents are skeptical. They'll say, oh, come on, kids are just going to Google the phrase, how do I get around NetNanny? Look, I have met with the people at Silicon Valley who write this software, and every day, several times a day, they're Googling the phrase, how do I get around the controls on NetNanny? And if anyone has actually found a hole, they patch it within hours. That's why you have a subscription. It's not a one-time thing. You get a subscription that updates typically on a daily basis. The programs really work as long as you choose a strong password. You have to choose a strong password because your daughter may spend hours trying to break your password. So let me give you a tip. Use a line of poetry that you know that they probably don't know, and combine it with the street address of the home you grew up in. What though the radiance 18128? That's a really strong password. She's not going to guess that password. As long as they don't guess the password, the programs work very well. Because you have to inculcate good habits. Virtue and conscientiousness has to be a matter of habit. And it's your job to inculcate good habits in your child. Many girls are going to bed with their phones switched on in vibrate mode. And then at 2 in the morning, she's getting a buzz, and her friend is sending a text message. Jason and Sonia have broken up. Oh my goodness, this is really big news. And now she's up for an hour in the middle of the night, exchanging texts with various friends. And she comes down the next morning, she looks a little tired. You ask her if she's okay, she says, yeah, I'm fine. Some of the problems we're addressing this evening are not easily fixed. This one's real easy to fix. At 9 o'clock at night or earlier, you say to your kids, devices off, hand them over, you collect the devices, you switch them off, and you put them in the charger, which stays in the parent's bedroom. Incidentally, one of your colleagues in Canton was telling me how she not only does that, she puts them in a safe in her room, because she found that her daughter was sneaking into her room at 2 in the morning and retrieving the phone out of the charger. You put them in the charger in your room, and you tell her she can have it back the next morning. Look, the rules of good parenting have not changed in 20 years. 20 years ago, a girl could not accept a phone call at 2 in the morning and exchange gossip for an hour in the middle of the night, because the phone would ring and the parents would not allow it. Because parents understood it's more important to get a good night's sleep than to be up for an hour in the middle of the night exchanging gossip. That was true then, and it's still true today. The rules of good parenting have not changed, but the technology has changed. So you need to understand that change. It's your job. Now, when you get home this evening and you announce to your daughter that you attended a presentation by a rather grumpy doctor from Pennsylvania, and the grumpy Pennsylvania doctor told you to confiscate all the devices at 9 o'clock, your daughter may not be pleased. She may not applaud. She may protest. She may say, but I use it as my alarm clock. Let her know they still make actual alarm clocks. You can go to the store and buy one. They're not expensive. And now she gets really upset. She says, but what if there's an emergency? Remind her that you still have a landline. If there's a true emergency, her friend is welcome to call the house phone, and you, the parent, will pick up. And you, the parent, will decide whether this emergency warrants waking her up at 2 in the morning. It can probably wait. But it's your job. What's she supposed to say tomorrow morning in school when her friend says, hey, I texted you last night at midnight, how come you didn't answer? What's your daughter supposed to say? She's supposed to say, well, researchers at Stanford have found that sleep deprivation greatly increases the risk of anxiety among teenagers. No, come on, that's ridiculous. Can't expect you to say that. You have to allow her to say, hey, my evil parents take my phone every night and won't let me have it back until the next morning. It's your job to be the evil parent. No devices in the bedroom. No phones in the bedroom, no screens in the bedroom, nothing with internet access in the bedroom. And I've been saying that for years, and so I was very grateful when 2 years ago, the American Academy of Pediatrics released new guidelines saying exactly that. After many years of deliberation, they issued a white paper, which is their highest level of consensus. No internet access in the bedroom, no phones in the bedroom, no unsupervised use of the internet. If your child's using a laptop or a tablet with internet access, it should be in the kitchen or in another public space in the house where there is no expectation of privacy. The American Academy said kids should have no expectation of privacy when they are using any device. And certainly when they're using any device with internet access. The device has to be in a public space. You do have to respect your child's physical privacy. You should not go barging in your teenage daughter's bedroom at 2 in the morning without knocking first. But if you knock first, she can put the device under the pillow and claim she wasn't using it. And I was speaking to parents at another venue, and a father interrupted me, and he said, Dr. Sachs, you're suggesting my daughter would lie to me. He said, my daughter would never lie to me. I said, sir, I don't know you, but based on the research, I can tell you that your daughter is much more likely to lie to you than to anyone else. Because she cares what you think. Because she doesn't want to disappoint you, she doesn't want to let you down. Don't put that stumbling block in her way. Don't subject her to that temptation. So we're talking about how American culture is harmful. We have to talk about sexting and not quite sexting. In just a moment, I'm going to show you a typical photo that is not sexting. It's not quite sexting, but to understand what not quite sexting is, you have to see such a photo. It's a girl in a bikini posing provocatively. If you have a child under 13 here and you're concerned about them seeing such a picture, this is your warning to step out, and you can come back in about 5 minutes. Scholars define sexting as sending or receiving an obscene photo, and scholars define obscene as either genitalia is exposed or the nipple of the female breast is exposed. Sexting, defined the way the scholars define it, is unusual. It's becoming more common, but even the highest estimates nationwide are 12% or lower, although there have been some recent reports that suggest a higher incidence. But what's really common is what is being referred to as not quite sexting. Not quite sexting means girls who are sending provocative photos which are not obscene. Obscene, again, this is defined by the scholars as genitalia exposed or the nipple of the female breast is exposed. These girls are sending photos which are not obscene, but they are provocative. New York Magazine devoted an entire issue to this topic. That's typical. That's not quite sexting. It's not an obscene photo, but it's very common. Why are they doing it? Girls are competitive. Boys are competitive. Girls and boys are both competitive, but they're competitive in different ways. And you're a girl, you're on Instagram, you have 60 followers. Your friend is on Instagram, she has 500 followers. How do you get 500 followers? Well, you post pictures like that one. And you could get to 1,000 very quickly. I've had the privilege of speaking for Islamic community associations across the United States. And sometimes parents in the Muslim community will say, well, this doesn't apply to us. Our daughters would never do such a thing. I was speaking earlier today with Dr. Azra Hamzavi, who's a psychiatrist here, Bloomfield Hills. I spoke with her at the Islamic Association of Greater Detroit earlier today. And she said to the whole community this morning, she said, we, the Muslim parents, need to be aware of this because this is happening. And our girls are doing this. They're concealing it from the parents. But these issues do affect our children. And I asked her whether I could have her permission to reproduce her comments this evening, and she said absolutely. Because she thinks it's very important that parents here understand that girls, Muslim girls in this community are doing this, and the parents don't know. And parents need to know. So that's one reaction that parents will have. They'll insist that their girls are not doing it. The other reaction parents will have is they'll say, well, of course they're doing it, but so what? Why is it a problem? You don't hear that reaction in the Muslim community, but you do hear it outside the Muslim community. And what you have to explain to that parent is, look, that girl is presenting herself as a sex object for the amusement and arousal of boys. That's what scholars call self-objectification. And girls who engage in that kind of activity are much more likely to tell researchers that how you look is what really matters. It's way more important than what kind of person you are. Girls who engage in this activity are much more likely to be anxious, much less likely to be academically engaged. So I'm a practicing physician. A few years back in my own practice, a girl I knew well was asked by another girl, her age, hey, how about we take our clothes off, I'll take some pictures of you, you take some pictures of me, and we'll send them to our boyfriends. What's a girl supposed to say? If she says no, she might be concerned that her friend will say, what's your problem? You still a kid? You still in kindergarten? Are you fat? What is she supposed to say? What she actually did say was, well, I can't do that because my parents have installed my mobile watchdog on my phone. Every photo I take and every photo I receive goes immediately to my mom's phone and to her laptop. Go ahead, try it out. And she handed her phone to her friend, and her friend took it. And they called Mom at work and said, hey, Mr. Patrick, did you see that picture we just took? And Mom's looking at the phone. Let's see, it's flowers, looks like flowers in a vase, gardenias. Okay, thanks, bye. And the girl who had proposed the striptease said, wow, I wish my parents cared that much about me. They have no idea what I do with my phone. And the striptease did not happen. Now, other parents who've heard me share this story have said, look, they could have used the other girl's phone. But the interesting thing about girls who engage in this activity is they don't really want to. Most of them, the great majority. So, in your handout you'll find citations to 2 studies of actual sexting, girls who are sending obscene photos, and boys who are sending obscene photos. And they ask the girls and boys, why are they doing it? And the boys say, because it's really fun and they really enjoy it. That's not the answer the girls give. Very few girls enjoy sending obscene photos, very few. Well, then why are they doing it? And the most common answer the girls give is, well, you know, if you're a cool girl at this school, that's kind of what you do. It's like your job description. You have to give girls an excuse to say no. It is a great burden for a girl to fight the entire weight of American popular culture. The culture of Miley Cyrus, Lady Gaga, Nicki Minaj. This is what cool girls do. Every study in the last 3 years has suggested that more than half of American teenage girls are doing this. And that is true without regard to race, ethnicity, religion, or region of the country. It is true in conservative areas as much as it is true in left-of-center communities. It's a characteristic of American culture. So I visited a leading independent school, well-regarded, $200 million endowment. 12-year-old girl at the school has a 14-year-old boyfriend also at the school. He asked her to send her some pictures, nothing raunchy. He just wanted her to pull off her blouse and send him some photos of her wearing her bra. And she agreed to do that. In the privacy of her room, she took a few photos and sent them using Snapchat with the 5-second setting. Snapchat, in my judgment, the biggest fraud currently being perpetrated on American kids. Snapchat claims that you can set how many seconds a person can see the photo and then it will vanish. They claim that if the person captures the photo, you will be notified. That's false, and they know it to be false. Kids can screenshot the pictures, capture the pictures, and you will not be notified. And 5 seconds is an eternity. This is an American boy. This is a boy who's got thousands of hours of practice shooting aliens. He can shoot 5 aliens in 5 seconds. To capture 1 picture in 5 seconds is a piece of child's play. He captured all the photos and saved them, and she was not aware of it. But school administrators later determined he didn't mean for anyone else to see the photos, but he was at a party, and he was talking with a friend and set down a phone and turned to talk to his friend, and another boy picked up the phone and found the photos and forwarded them to his own phone and then set the phone back down. The boy never knew it had happened. The boy who forwarded the photos to his own phone then posted them on Instagram, and within a few days everyone had seen them. Boys this girl didn't even know were coming up to her at school and saying, "Hey Sonia, how about you do a striptease for us?" She was a popular girl. She was had been invited to a 3-day ski weekend. The girl hosting the ski weekend called her up and said, you know, I feel terrible about this, but all the other moms are freaking out. They think you're like a bad influence now, and they're saying if you're there, they won't let their daughters come. So I have to uninvite you. I feel really bad about it, but I have to uninvite you. This girl had no psychiatric history. She was hysterical, nonstop crying, refusing to go to school, started cutting herself with razor blades. Parents took her to the doctor. The doctor prescribed Lexapro, 10 milligrams. That accomplished nothing. So now you have a girl who is a mess, refusing to go to school. Grades, of course, are plummeting, cutting herself with razor blades, talking about suicide. Who's to blame? The girl? Her boyfriend? The other boy? Their kids. The parents are to blame. Look, this is a very grown-up device. This is a very grown-up device. With this device, I can take a photo, send a photo. That photo can be reproduced anywhere around the world. That's a very grown-up functionality. If you're going to put a device like this in the hands of a child, then you are responsible for every photo the kid sends, every photo they receive. So I wrote an op-ed on this topic for the Wall Street Journal. Link is in your handout. And I'm very specific in my recommendations. At what age is it reasonable for a kid to have such a device? Well, certainly not under 13. No kid under 13 should have such a device. And in my judgment, most 13-year-olds are not ready either. But certainly no child under 13. What device? Not an iPhone. So, in researching my article for the Wall Street Journal, studying these programs that I'd heard about from kids, like Neck Nanny Mobile and My Mobile Watchdog, I learned that these programs are not stable on an iPhone. Anyone possessing the phone can uninstall the program without a password. So I contacted the lead technology editor for the Wall Street Journal. I said, look, I got this op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, and as near as I can tell, these parental monitoring programs are not stable on the iPhone. Anyone can uninstall them without a password, but you know, I'm really not a tech person. Can you find out, is that for real? And if so, where did that come from? And he said, all right, give me a few days. And a few days later, he got back to me. He said, you're right, Dr. Sachs. These programs are not stable. Anyone possessing the phone can uninstall them without a password. And that is by order of the late Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs had a real problem with authority. He didn't want anyone using an iPhone to be monitored if they didn't want to be monitored. And incidentally, Steve Jobs didn't let any of his kids have a device. Didn't let any of his kids have an iPhone. So any kid holding an iPhone can remove the program, take any photo, receive any photo, then delete the photo, reinstall the program, and you have no way of knowing. So I went back to the Wall Street Journal. I said, hey, can we change my op-ed? We got to change my op-ed because I need to put in a paragraph saying no iPhones. Can we do that? And they said no. They said, Dr. Sachs, we do not make product recommendations on the editorial page. Product recommendations are for the technology section of the paper, not for the editorial page. So you won't find that particular recommendation on the editorial page in my op-ed, but you need to know. No iPhones. Some parents are reluctant to enforce these rules. As one parent said to me, look, I don't want to violate my daughter's privacy. If she doesn't want me to see her photos, I'm fine with that. I don't want to see them if she doesn't want me to see them. I respect her privacy. And I say to that parent, look, the most important thing you must teach your daughter or son is that there is no such thing as electronic privacy. There is no such thing as privacy to any photo you send with a device. That's the most important message you have to teach. And you don't teach that message by preaching it. You teach that message by saying, I will see every photo you send and every photo you receive. If you don't want me to see it, don't send it. But I could see the parent was not impressed. I've been saying this for years. I could see the parent was not persuaded. Until 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I discovered 3 magic words that have made the job of persuading that parent much easier. The 3 magic words are General David Petraeus. General David Petraeus. Some of you may not know the story. Let me refresh your memory. General David Petraeus graduated top of his class at West Point, graduated first in his class at the General Staff College, then earned a doctorate at Princeton, became a brigadier general at age 46, commanded the 101st Airborne in Iraq, was appointed commanding general, and then President Bush elevated him to commanding officer, U.S. Central Command. And then in 2011, President Obama appointed him director of the CIA. You would think he would know that there is no such thing as privacy to any electronic communication, but somehow he missed the memo. And he and his mistress / biographer thought they were so smart, they were so clever, they had their Google Dropbox and their passwords no one would ever know. Bzzz, wrong, career over. The moral of that story is do not post anything online, do not send any photo in any format, secure or not, unless you're ready for grandma to see it in the newspaper tomorrow. And you don't teach that by preaching it. As I said, you teach it by saying, I will see every photo you send. Virtue has to be a matter of habit. It can't be a matter of rational choice. You have to inculcate good habits in your kids. 20 years ago, there used to be a public service announcement that would come on American television at 10 o'clock at night. It's 10 o'clock, do you know where your kids are? Because 20 years ago, the dangers were out there. The drugs and the gangs were out there. And if it was 10 o'clock at night and your kid was home, alone in their room, you were a good parent. And many of us were raised in that era. You have to realize that the challenges today